happens here after a big opinion. The crowds have not dissipated. If anything, they've only grown, as have their chants about what they say is the loss of a constitutional right. But what the majority of the court held today is that the constitutional right to an abortion never actually existed. Nearly half a century after Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court overturned a precedent critics and some supporters, including the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, had warned was long on shaky legal ground. Writing for the majority, Justice Alito called Roe's reasoning, quote, exceptionally weak. Justices Thomas, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett joined him in ultimately holding, quote, the Constitution does not prohibit the citizens of each state from regulating or prohibiting abortion. Roe and Casey arrogated that authority. We now overrule those decisions. Justices Breyer, Kagan, and Sotomayor jointly signed their dissent, warning about the practical implications. Today, the court says that from the very moment of fertilization, a woman has no rights to speak of. A state can force her to bring a pregnancy to term, even at the steepest personal and familial costs. Across the country, numerous states have already acted in anticipation of today's decision. The trio of dissenters warned not only about state actions, but also the damage they believe the majority has done to the court itself. One of us once said that it is not often in the law that so few have so quickly changed so much. For all of us, in our time on this court, that has never been more true than today. In overruling Roe and Casey, this court betrays its guiding principles. Chief Justice Roberts tried to find the middle ground. Both the court's opinion and the dissent display a relentless freedom from doubt on the legal issue that I cannot share. I would decide the question we granted review to answer, and there is no need to go further to decide this case. Democrats, including the president, are calling for a political response at the polls, suggesting this opinion means that rights like contraception and same-sex marriage are now in danger, likely in reference to Justice Thomas's solo concurrence, quote, I agree that nothing in the court's opinion should be understood to cast doubt on precedents that do not concern abortion. For that reason, in future cases, we should reconsider all of this court's substantive due process precedents, including Griswold, Lawrence, and Obergefell.
This extreme and dangerous path the court is now taking us on.
But that does not align with the majority opinion, in which Justice Alito writes, rights regarding contraception and same-sex relationships are inherently different from the right to abortion, because the latter, as we have stressed, uniquely involves what Roe and Casey termed, quote, potential life. It is hard to see how we could be clearer. It is interesting to note.
It's not hyperbole to suggest a very solemn moment.
President Biden said this after
The culmination of a deliberate effort over decades to upset the balance of our law.
President Biden called out former President Donald Trump.
View abortion as a choice and a right. I think it's always a tragedy.
But the president's stance became more progressive and in